Hello, everyone. Tonight, we are stepping into a world where the ground is damp with ancient dew, and the air is thick with the scent of ferns crushed underfoot. You're not standing tall here. You're hunched low because around you, the shadows of dinosaurs flicker between the trees. You shuffle along, and the eerie quiet is broken only by the faintest rustle as something moves ahead. Something walking, not with the flat thud of a heavy foot, but with a curious grace on its tiptoes. The dawn is pale, the world is waking up, and you probably won't survive long if you make too much noise. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it right now? Now, turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. You follow hesitating at first as a pack of dinosaurs slips between the towering conifers. Their bodies are built for stealth, sleek, feathered forms with long tails held rigid for balance. Their feet don't slap the earth, they glide forward, each step placed with precision, their weight balanced delicately on their toes. The ground is littered with ancient needles and soft moss, and their passage barely stirs it. You notice how their limbs move like dancers, but with a purpose: survival. The lead hunter pauses. You can almost hear its breath, shallow and slow. It tilts its head and one glinting eye catches the rising sun's light. That eye studies you for a heartbeat too long, as if deciding whether you're worth the effort. Luckily for you, a rustle ahead draws its attention back to the hunt. Historians still debate whether these tiptoe-walking dinosaurs adopted this gait purely for stealth or if it was a structural necessity tied to their leg anatomy. What's clear tonight is that it works. The pack advances with eerie silence toward the source of the noise, a small, unsuspecting herbivore grazing near a fallen log. You try to match their movements, lifting your feet lightly, balancing on the balls of your feet. It doesn't work. A twig snaps under your boot, and for a moment the pack freezes. You can almost hear their inner groan. One turns its head slightly, giving you a look that in any age would clearly mean amateur. The prey notices too late. The pack bursts forward, their tiptoe gait giving way to a deadly sprint. Their slender feet dig in, and their long claws extend as they leap onto their quarry. There's no roar, no dramatic announcement, just the thud of impact and a flurry of feathers. It's quick, it's brutal, and then it's over. You exhale, realizing you'd been holding your breath. The pack tears into the meal, but it's a quiet affair, no squabbling, no noise to alert bigger predators. This is a world where discretion is survival. An odd fact while we're here in this quiet moment. Some modern birds descendants of these ancient tiptoers still retain a vestigial tendon structure in their feet that forces their toes to curl when they rest, a built-in mechanism for perching that can trace its origins to this kind of posture. And yes, even your pet parakeet is carrying the shadow of this ancient habit. The sun creeps higher. The pack licks the blood from their jaws and fades into the forest again, leaving behind nothing but faint prints and a few scattered bones. You step forward to study the tracks. Each one is delicate toes splayed just slightly, heel rarely touching down. It's like a secret language written on the ground, one that only those who know where to look can understand. Remember when we thought dinosaurs were just lumbering beasts? You're seeing now how much more complex they were. These creatures knew the value of quiet, the value of balance. You watch as the last of the pack disappears into a copse of cycads, their tails the last thing to vanish from view. The forest hushes again. A breeze stirs the ferns, and somewhere off to your left, another shadow moves, but you don't turn your head. You've learned enough tonight to know better. You step carefully. Now your boots sinking softly into the ancient muck as you trail behind the vanished pack. The ground here is a patchwork of soft mud, decaying leaves and shallow pools reflecting the pale sky. It's like a giant prehistoric canvas, and every creature that walks here leaves its mark except those tiptoe walkers. Their prints are strange, faint things, as if they barely touch the ground at all. You crouch, running a finger along the edge of one. The toes are clear, splayed just slightly, but the heel is absent, no deep impression, no solid stamp of weight. It's puzzling. How could such large animals move so lightly across this spongy earth? You picture the ancient predators and herbivores of the time following these faint trails, trying to puzzle out where their quarry had gone. Maybe you'd feel the same frustration. The prints lead off, then vanish into a patch of thicker vegetation where the ground firms up. Historians still debate whether these faint prints are evidence of deliberate stealth or simply a consequence of anatomy, long, slim legs built for speed and balance that naturally avoided heel contact. Either way, it's clear that these creatures had an edge. Their passage left fewer clues for both prey and rival predators to follow. You shuffle forward, stepping into a print by accident. Your full weight squashes it deeper into the mud, erasing it forever. The forest seems to sigh around you as if annoyed by your clumsiness. A dragonfly the size of your hand buzzes by, its wings glinting like stained glass. You resist the urge to swat at it. Best not to draw attention. Ahead, the mud changes color, darker, wetter, more treacherous. A shallow stream has overflowed, leaving behind a slick, deceptive surface that could suck down anything careless enough to linger. But there, along the edge of this trap, the tiptoe prints dance lightly from tuft to tuft of grass, barely disturbing the fragile crust. You pause, imagining what it would take to move like that. The precise control, the constant balance, the confidence that your next step would land true. It's no wonder these dinosaurs could stalk through the undergrowth almost like ghosts. An odd fact floats into your mind. As odd facts tend to do when you're alone in an ancient swamp, camels. Yes, modern camels have evolved soft, wide feet that prevent them from sinking into desert sands. A solution in a way opposite to what these tiptoe walkers had done. Where camels spread the weight, these dinosaurs concentrated it, moving lightly enough that the mud barely noticed their passing. You notice something else, too. A deeper set of prints, rounder and heavier, crossing the tiptoe trail at an angle. Another predator, perhaps one less graceful, stomping its way through the marsh. The two sets of tracks tell a silent story of the moment they cross paths. Did the heavier beast notice the faint trail? Did it care? Or did it blunder on, oblivious to the delicate traces left behind? The light shifts as the sun climbs higher and the mud begins to dry at the edges, curling like old paper. The tiptoe prints will be gone by nightfall, erased by the heat or the next rain. And maybe that was the point. In a world where being noticed meant being eaten, leaving no trail was the ultimate defense. You follow the trail to a place where the ground rises slightly. Here, the prints are nearly invisible, the creatures walking on firmer soil, their toes barely pressing into the earth. It's as if they floated. You try it yourself, balancing on the balls of your feet, stepping lightly, and instantly regret it. Your ankle wobbles, you flail your arms and nearly topple into a bush that looks suspiciously carnivorous. The tiptoe walkers had evolved for this. You not so much. You straighten up, brushing mud from your hands, and glance nervously at the trees. The forest has eyes. You know it. And those eyes are watching your every move, amused perhaps at your poor attempt to mimic their ancient dance. A breeze ripples through the canopy, sending a shower of needles down onto your head. You sigh. Even the trees seem to be judging you now. Still, you press on, following the faint trail as it winds deeper into the woods. The ground becomes rockier, the mud giving way to patches of sand and stone. Here, the tiptoe prints vanish, entirely lost in the jumble of natural debris. And you're left alone with the rustling leaves and your own awkward footsteps. The forest opens slightly and you find yourself standing at the edge of a shallow ravine. Below, half buried in the silt and tangled roots, lies the bleached outline of a skeleton, ancient beyond imagining. The ribs rise like the frames of forgotten ships, and at the end of each long leg bone, the ankle joint is twisted at an angle that looks almost wrong. You slide down the slope, boots sending loose stones skittering. The air is cooler here, stiller, the kind of place where even the breeze seems to hold its breath. You crouch beside the skeleton, brushing away the dirt with the sleeve of your shirt. And there it is, the ankle. The joint itself seems tilted, angled for balance, as if this animal had no choice but to walk on its toes. Historians still debate whether this ankle design evolved first for speed or for posture. What's certain is that it locked these creatures into a tiptoe stance for life. Imagine that. You forever teetering at the edge of balance, unable to plant your heel flat without a struggle. No slippers, no bare feet on the beach, just the permanent poise of a dancer who never rests. You run a hand along the bones, tracing the elegant curve from ankle to clawed toe. The claws themselves are sharp, even after all these millennia, the keratin long gone but the shape preserved in stone. This was a predator, no doubt about it. A hunter built for speed, stealth, and precision. An odd fact comes to mind: modern horses which walk on a single toe. Their hoof are distant echoes of this design. They too evolved for speed, their ankle bones elongated, their gait forever tiptoed. Next time you see a horse galloping across a field, you'll know you're watching the shadow of a much older design. You glance up at the canopy, half expecting to see a living descendant of these tiptoe walkers peering down at you. But the branches are empty, save for a pair of bright-eyed lizards basking in the sun. They look smug. You wonder if they know their ancestors once ruled this forest. Your gaze returns to the skeleton. Around the bones, the mud is cracked and dry, but the shape of the creature is clear. The hind limbs are long and slender, the tail stretched behind like a counterweight. You can picture it, can't you? The way it moved, each step deliberate, each toe placed with care. You rise, dusting off your knees, and take a last look at the fallen hunter. Even in death, it seems ready to spring forward, balanced on the eternal edge of motion. The ankle bones have locked it into its final pose, a tiptoe stance frozen in time. The wind picks up, rustling the ferns at the ravine's edge. You climb back up, boots slipping on loose earth. The skeleton watches you go, or so it feels. And for a moment, you wonder what it would be like to see that creature alive, to witness the fluid grace of its gait, the silent confidence of its movements. You push on the forest, closing in around you once more. The path ahead is uncertain, but one thing is clear: these ancient tiptoe walkers left more than faint tracks. They left questions, mysteries carved in bone and stone, waiting for wanderers like you to stumble upon them and wonder. Word count 1060. The forest deepens, shadows lengthening, even as the sun climbs higher. You move quietly now, more out of instinct than strategy. The air is thick with the scent of damp wood and decaying leaves, and every step you take seems to echo louder than you'd like. Then, through a tangle of low branches, you spot them, tiptoe predators on the prowl once more. But this time the scene is different. The light is fading fast, dusk approaching earlier under the heavy canopy, and these hunters have shifted into night mode. They move like ghosts, bodies, low heads angled downward. Eyes reflecting the last pale light like coins at the bottom of a well. Their feet land lightly on the leaf-litter claws, half curled so as not to snag. You watch, breath shallow, as they approach a clutch of nests hidden in a hollow. The nests are crude, just mounds of leaves and mud, but they house treasure eggs, warm and unguarded for now. Historians still debate whether tiptoe walking evolved as a primary tool for nighttime raids, or whether it was a lucky side effect of a body built for other tasks. But here in the half-dark, it's easy to see the advantage. The hunters make no sound as they close in, no rustling, no crunch of twigs. The nest's owners, likely heavy-footed herbivores, are nowhere to be seen. Perhaps trusting their size alone would deter threats. Poor choice. One predator pauses, tilting its head to listen. You can almost hear its breathing, soft and steady, and then with a swiftness that startles you, it lunges forward. No dramatic roar, no fury, just precision. It grabs an egg in its jaws and slips back into the undergrowth, vanishing as if it were never there. You inch closer, peering at the nests. Several eggs remain large and speckled, their surfaces shining in the low light. One lies cracked open, the contents already scooped out by the raider. A trail of faint prints leads away, each toe splayed gently in the soft earth, each step balanced to avoid noise. An odd fact bubbles up. Owls, those modern masters of the silent hunt, share a similar advantage. Feather adaptations that dampen sound. While these tiptoe dinosaurs lacked flight, their feet gave them the same edge, a quiet approach that left no chance for their victims. You shift your weight, and a branch snaps underfoot. The sound is deafening. The remaining predators, hidden, though they were, explode from the underbrush in a flurry of feathers and claws. You freeze, heart pounding as they streak past you, disappearing into the deeper woods. One brushes your sleeve, its feathers soft and warm against your skin. The nests are still again, the silence returning like a held breath released. But the lesson lingers. In this ancient world, survival favors the quiet, the poised, the unseen. Tiptoeing isn't just a quirk, it's a strategy honed by ages of risk. You back away slowly, careful not to disturb the fragile peace. The light continues to fade, shadows stretching long fingers across the forest floor. And somewhere beyond your sight, the tiptoe predators regroup, ready for the next opportunity that dusk will bring. The night deepens, but you're not alone in the dark. You hear it first, the faint rustle of leaves, the whisper of grass parting, the almost imperceptible thud of claws meeting earth. You ease yourself behind a fallen log, eyes adjusting to the gloom, and there they are, a group of feathered dinosaurs moving as one, their bodies low, their toes curling delicately with each silent step. They move like living shadows, blending seamlessly with the swaying ferns and tall cycads that surround them. It's not just camouflage, it's choreography. Each predator places its foot with care, as if the ground itself might betray them if they press too hard. Their feathers, a riot of dark and pale streaks, ripple in the breeze, breaking up their outlines in the moonlight. You could almost mistake them for the undergrowth itself until they move again, slipping closer to their target. Historians still debate whether these feathered hunters evolved their tiptoe gait to complement their plumage, or if it was simply the most efficient way to harness their light aerodynamic frames. Either way, tonight the two work together perfectly. Their prey, a small-beaked dinosaur, has no idea what's coming. An odd fact occurs to you as you watch modern house cats. Masters of stealth in your world often walk on the balls of their feet, their heels lifted, just like these ancient hunters. It's a gait designed for silence, precision, and a lightning-quick pounce. Some things, it seems, never go out of style. The feathered pack draws closer. One pauses, turning its head, and you swear it looks right at you, eyes bright, unblinking. But no, it's focused beyond you, where its quarry rustles the leaves. The pack leader lifts a clawed hand, slightly a signal. The group freezes as if turned to stone. The tension is thick enough to taste. Even the wind seems to hush, unwilling to give the hunters away. Then, in an instant, they're in motion. The pack surges forward, feet barely touching the earth, their claws flashing as they leap upon their unsuspecting meal. The undergrowth thrashes violently, then stills. You remain frozen behind your log, watching as they tear small pieces from their catch, each bite quick and efficient. There's no growling, no posturing, just business. The tiptoe gait had served its purpose, delivering them to their prize without a sound. One by one, the pack melts back into the forest, their forms swallowed by the dark. Their prints, shallow and delicate, remain only for a moment before the wind scatters them and the earth forgets they were ever there. You rise slowly, brushing moss from your jacket. The forest feels emptier now, quieter. But you know better. The tiptoe walkers are out there, still waiting, watching their steps as soft as a breath. You step carefully over fallen branches, heart still pounding from the sight of those feathered hunters fading into the dark. The ground changes beneath your boots. What was once soft earth and leaf litter gives way to slick, bare rock. It glistens under the moonlight, a thin film of water running across its surface. Somewhere nearby you hear the burble of a stream swollen by a recent rain, and then you see it. A lone tiptoe walker, a predator like the ones you watched earlier, but younger, perhaps bolder or less experienced. It moves with the same careful grace, at first toes spread wide, claws lightly clicking against stone. But this rock is no friend to stealth. Its surface is treacherous, and the dinosaur's next step is its mistake. Its foot skids outward, claws scraping uselessly as it tries to catch itself. The long tail lashes violently, an elegant counterweight turned into a desperate whip. The predator topples sideways with a splash into a shallow pool at the rock's edge, flailing for purchase on the smooth surface. You wince, feeling second-hand embarrassment for the creature. If dinosaurs could blush, this one would be crimson. Historians still debate whether the tiptoe gait was a liability on wet or unstable surfaces, or whether such slips were rare flukes in an otherwise flawless design. Tonight, though, it's clear tiptoeing comes with risks. The same balance that makes for silent hunting can be undone by a patch of slick rock. The predator scrambles upright, dripping feathers plastered to its sides. It glances around as if hoping no one saw. You stifle a chuckle. Even in the ancient world, it seems pride could sting harder than the fall itself. An odd fact floats through your mind. Modern ballet dancers, masters of toe balance, are taught from an early age to respect slick surfaces. A single misstep on stage can mean disaster, much like for this ancient hunter. The parallels are almost too perfect. You watch as the dinosaur shakes itself off, sending droplets flying in the moonlight. It tests the rock gingerly now, each step measured, tail held low for better balance. Lesson learned. The creature moves off, seeking the safety of firmer ground. The rock gleams in the moonlight, the scene frozen in your memory, the slip, the scramble, the recovery. Even the most graceful of beings can falter. You take a step yourself, feeling the rock's treachery under your boots, and decide to follow a different path. The night deepens, and the sounds of the forest return, a chorus of insects, the hoot of some unseen predator, the distant crash of a branch under something large. But the slip on wet rock reminds you this world is as dangerous for its hunters as for its prey. The night air cools as you press on the forest, thinning to reveal a wide plain bathed in silver moonlight. You pause at its edge, watching as shapes move across the open ground. The tiptoe walkers are back, but now their posture shifts again. No longer creeping, no longer stalking, they run. And it's a sight that steals your breath. Their slender legs flash in the pale light, claws extended, toes never fully touching down flat. Each stride is a glide, a silent surge forward. They cross the plain like shadows blown by the wind. No thunder of feet, no heavy drumbeat of mass-meeting earth. Just the whisper of speed. You try to imagine it. What would it sound like if they ran as flat-footed giants did? The thudding might wake the forest alert prey, invite rivals. But here now, they are ghosts. Historians still debate whether this tiptoe sprint evolved solely to avoid detection, or if it was simply the best way to channel speed through those long, slender legs. Either way, the effect is clear. These creatures cover ground faster, smoother, quieter. You take a step forward, boots, sinking into the soft soil at the plain's edge, and try to match their gait. It's hopeless, of course. Your heavy footsteps feel clumsy, loud as drum beats in the night. The tiptoe walkers vanish into the distance, leaving only faint prints that barely mar the grass. An odd fact drifts into your mind as you watch them go. Cheetahs, the fastest land animals today, don't truly run flat-footed either. Their paws hit the ground with only their toes. Their heels lifted their bodies built for bursts of speed. The echoes of ancient tiptoe designs run deeper than you'd think. Suddenly, a rival predator crashes onto the plain from the far side, a heavier beast with feet that pound the earth. The ground trembles faintly under its charge, but the tiptoe walkers are gone before it's even close. Speed and silence win the night. You linger at the edge of the plain, the cool breeze tugging at your clothes, and wonder what it would feel like to run that way, to float over the ground unseen and unheard. But your feet stay firmly planted, heavy with the weight of your world. The plain quiets again. The distant shapes swallowed by darkness, and you turn back toward the forest, the memory of their silent sprint etched in your mind. The forest closes in once more as you follow a narrow game trail, the moonlight now little more than a glimmer through the canopy. The air is thick with the smell of earth and sap, and somewhere nearby, you hear the soft rustle of a movement. You freeze, crouching low, and peer between the trees. There, barely visible in the gloom, a mother dinosaur tends to her nest. She's a large creature, but she moves with surprising delicacy, lifting one foot at a time, balancing on the tips of her claws as she steps between the clutch of eggs. The ground here is soft, a mixture of loam and leaf litter, and the nest is little more than a shallow scrape lined with ferns. The eggs themselves are large, speckled, and impossibly fragile-looking. Historians still debate whether this tiptoe gait evolved partly for parental care to allow these creatures to move among their nests without causing accidental destruction. What you see tonight suggests there's truth to that theory. The mother places each step with care, toes curling slightly as she shifts her weight, never letting her full foot come down. You watch as she uses her snout to nudge a loose fern into place, covering the eggs a little more securely. Her breath steams in the cool night air, and for a moment she simply stands watching over her clutch, the tiptoe stance giving her balance as she surveys the clearing. An odd fact floats to mind: modern flamingos, though very different birds, often balance for hours on one leg, resting their bodies while keeping alert. The mother dinosaur's poise reminds you of that, an ancient echo of balance and vigilance. A breeze stirs the trees and the mother tilts her head, listening. She steps lightly around the nest, circling it once before settling just beside it, curling her tail around to shield the eggs from view. The forest hums quietly around her, but no threat comes. Tonight, at least, the nest is safe. You back away slowly, careful not to snap a twig or rustle a leaf. The mother's tiptoe steps might leave barely a mark, but yours would surely wake the forest. And you're not eager to test her protective instincts. As you retreat, you take one last look at the nest, the delicate eggs, the watchful mother, the faint prints that trace a pattern of care and precision. The ancient world had no shortage of dangers, but in this quiet moment, balance and gentleness have won. The forest path winds downward, leading you into a low valley where the air grows thicker, heavier, scented with moss and the sharp tang of fern sap. The ground here is soft but uneven, matted with ancient plant debris that crunches faintly underfoot. And as you move through the undergrowth, a strange sound reaches your ears, a kind of rhythmic, clumsy stomping that seems wildly out of place in this world of stealth and balance. You pause behind a fallen log and peer through the tangled vines. There, trundling through the undergrowth, are what can only be described as the odd cousins of the tiptoe walkers. These dinosaurs are built similarly, long-legged, feathered, and slender, but they move with a gracelessness that's almost painful to watch. Their feet hit the ground flat, toes spread wide, heels slapping down with every step. They try. You can see it. Every so often one lifts its foot as if to mimic the delicate balance of its more elegant relatives, but then it falters, lurches, and stomps down again with a thud that sets the nearby birds squawking in alarm. Historians still debate whether these awkward cousins abandoned the tiptoe gait over generations due to changing habitats, or whether they simply never mastered it in the first place. Tonight, as you watch them stumble and blunder through the ferns, it seems obvious they're not cut out for subtlety. An odd fact drifts into your thoughts. Modern ostriches, though. Impressive runners actually walk flat-footed when they're moving slowly, saving their toe-first speed for when it truly matters. Perhaps these ancient creatures share that duality, tiptoe dreams and flat-foot reality. You watch as one of the group trips over a root, flapping its feathered arms wildly to stay upright. Its companions stop, heads tilting in what you swear looks like embarrassment by association. The fallen one scrambles up, shakes itself off, and stomps on as if nothing happened. The group's passage leaves a mess behind ferns, crushed, leaf litter, disturbed prints deep and obvious. No predator would have trouble following this trail. You imagine the tiptoe walkers you've seen earlier shaking their heads in silent dismay at such a lack of finesse. The odd cousins disappear into the undergrowth, their noisy passage slowly fading. You're left in the quiet again, the forest seeming to sigh in relief. And you move on, stepping lightly, determined not to add to the chaos they left behind. You leave behind the chaos of the odd cousins' trail, pushing deeper into a part of the forest where the ground rises slightly drier and firmer underfoot. The canopy here opens just enough to let streaks of moonlight fall like silver ladders onto the earth. And there, across a wide clearing, you spot them fossilized trackways, ancient prints preserved in hardened mud, the footprints of creatures long gone. You step closer, heart quickening. The tracks are delicate, each print showing splayed toes deep at the front, shallow at the heel, or missing it entirely. A tiptoe walker's trail frozen forever, but alongside it, other prints cross and mingle, some heavier, rounder, others showing different patterns of movement. You crouch low, tracing the outlines with your fingers. Historians still debate whether these trackways tell a single story, a predator in pursuit, a herd on the move, a mother guarding her nest, or whether they represent many moments layered over time. What's certain is that these prints have fueled endless arguments. Were the tiptoes about stealth, speed, or balance? Maybe all of the above. Maybe something no one's thought of yet. An odd fact tickles your brain as you study the ground. Human toddlers, when learning to walk, often take their first steps on their toes, as if tapping into some ancient instinct. For a few brief moments in childhood, we all walk like little dinosaurs before we settle into our heel-heavy stride. You rise and circle the trackway, trying to imagine the moment these prints were made. A group of tiptoe hunters gliding silently across the clearing. A solitary stalker following the scent of prey. The prints weave and cross a silent story, written in a language lost to time. The moon drifts higher, casting shifting patterns on the ancient ground. And you wonder what other debates these prints will spark for the next curious souls who find them. What secrets do they still hold, waiting to be argued over by those who dream of the past? You step back from the trackway, letting the mystery be for now, and melt into the dark once more. The first heavy drops of rain hit your shoulders just as the clearing fades behind you. The breeze that had been your companion all night swells into a gust, carrying the smell of wet earth and something sharp, ozone perhaps, or the promise of thunder. You pull your jacket tighter and press on the forest around you, darkening as storm clouds blot out the moon. It starts slowly, the rain, but soon the heavens open and the downpour drenches everything. The ground beneath your feet turns slick leaf litter, dissolving into muck. Puddles swell into rivulets. And in the growing gloom, you catch sight of them, the tiptoe walkers navigating the flooded forest floor. They move with the same eerie poise you've seen before. Feet placed with care on whatever firm ground they can find, roots, fallen logs, mounds of moss. Their toes spread wide to grip the slick surfaces, claws curling to hook into bark. They step lightly where they can, gliding from safe spot to safe spot, their balance impeccable even in the rising water. Historians still debate whether the tiptoe gait evolved partly as an adaptation for wet environments like this, where heavy steps would mean sinking into the mire. Watching them tonight, you can see why the theory persists. The flat-footed creatures you glimpse in the distance, heavier beasts built for brute force, are floundering, their feet sucked down into the mud, their movements slow and labored. An odd fact bubbles to the surface of your rain-soaked brain. Certain modern wading birds, like jacanas, have evolved long toes to spread their weight on lily pads, walking where heavier creatures would plunge through. The tiptoe walkers, you realize, are doing the prehistoric equivalent. Lightning flashes illuminating the scene in stark white. For a heartbeat, the forest is frozen in that light, the tiptoe walkers poised mid-step, the flat-footed giants stuck fast, the rain falling in silver sheets. And then the night swallows it all again, the thunder rolling overhead like the voice of some ancient god. You stay where you are, half sheltered under a leaning tree, watching as the tiptoe walkers disappear into the storm, leaving barely a trace on the flooded ground. The rain will wash away what little they leave behind, erasing their passage as if they were never there at all. The rain eases at last, leaving the forest dripping and glistening in the faint glow of a hidden moon. Steam rises from the ground where warm earth meets cool rain, curling around your legs like ancient spirits. You move quietly now, every sound amplified in the hush after the storm. And then through the mist you see them, two tiptoe predators locked in a tense standoff in a small clearing. They circle each other, claws clicking softly against the damp ground, tails held out for balance. The tension between them hums like a drawn bowstring. Every step is measured, deliberate. Each foot placed on the ball heel, lifted, weight balanced just so. This isn't just a fight, it's dance. Historians still debate whether such duels were common among tiptoe walkers or whether what you're seeing is a rare display, two rivals vying for territory for a mate, or perhaps simply settling some ancient score. But tonight, you are witness to it, and it's mesmerizing. The larger of the two lunges, first claws slashing through the mist, but the smaller dodges, pivoting gracefully, its tiptoe stance allowing it to twist and recover in one fluid motion. They clash again, bodies thudding together, tails whipping the wet ferns. But always they land light poised, never letting their full weight slam down. An odd fact drifts into your mind as you watch modern martial artists often train barefoot or on the balls of their feet, learning to shift balance quickly to move with speed and precision. The tiptoe walkers were born with that mastery. The duel continues, fierce but silent, save for the hiss of breath and the occasional rasp of claws on bark as they sidestep around the clearing's edge. Then as quickly as it began, it ends. The smaller one feints, the larger hesitates, and in that instant the smaller slips away, vanishing into the undergrowth. The victor stands alone for a moment, chest heaving, then turns and melts into the forest too, leaving only faint prints in the wet earth. You let out a breath you didn't know you were holding. The clearing empty now, save for the whisper of rain dripping from the leaves. The duel, like the storm, has passed, but the memory lingers, etched in the mist. The path rises gently now, and you follow it upward where the trees grow closer together, their branches intertwining to form a dense canopy that filters what little light remains. The air is damp and cool, and every step you take seems to echo louder than before. But ahead of you, high above on the ancient branches, the real masters of this world move, small tree-dwelling dinosaurs that seem as much a part of the forest as the leaves themselves. You stop beneath one of the massive trees and tilt your head back, peering through the gloom. There, silhouetted against the slivers of moonlight, are the tiptoe ghosts of the canopy. Their slender forms balance easily on narrow limbs, claws curling lightly around the bark, tails held out behind like living tightropes. Every movement is slow, deliberate, each step placed on the toes to minimize sound, to keep from disturbing the delicate balance that holds them aloft. Historians still debate whether these small theropods evolved their tiptoe gait primarily for life among the branches, or whether it was a fortunate adaptation that allowed them to move easily between ground and canopy. Tonight, as you watch them pick their way across the swaying limbs, it seems clear they were born for this. One pauses, sniffing the air, its feathers rustling softly. Then it eases forward, shifting its weight with a grace that would make any acrobat jealous. The branch beneath it bends slightly, but the dinosaur adjusts instantly, claws digging in just enough to anchor itself. An odd fact tickles your brain: modern tree frogs, though, tiny, use a combination of toe pads and delicate foot placement to navigate their high-perch world. The ancient tiptoe walkers had their own version of this mastery: claws, balance, and instinct honed by generations of life in the treetops. A sudden gust of wind stirs the canopy, setting the branches swaying. The tiptoe walkers respond without panic, lowering their bodies, spreading their toes, tails curling tighter for balance. They ride the motion like ships on a rolling sea, their movements so fluid you almost forget they're there at all. You stand beneath them, soaked to the skin, feeling the forest breathe around you. The night is deep now, the world reduced to shadows and sound. And above you, the ghosts of the canopy move on silent and unseen, leaving no sign of their passing, but the faint whisper of feathers against leaves. The forest path narrows as you descend toward a low, mist-filled hollow, where the earth is soft and dark beneath your boots. The air here is thick, with the smell of wet clay and decay, and the silence is so complete that even your breath seems too loud. You move carefully, drawn by a strange pattern in the ground ahead. Fossilized tracks perfectly preserved a final message from the past. The prints are unmistakable tiptoe tracks, each step light, but sure toes spread and claws etched clearly into the hardened mud. They form a line that arcs across the hollow, weaving between ancient boulders and the remains of fallen trees. But then abruptly the pattern changes. The steps lengthen, the toe marks deepen, and the prints angle sharply away from whatever path the creature had intended. You follow the trail with your eyes heart beating faster. It's easy to imagine the moment, the sudden snap of a branch, the rush of some unseen terror. The tiptoe walker turning, fleeing, its every muscle coiled in panic. The final prints show the effort, the claws digging deep, the toes spread wide to push off with all the strength it had. And then the trail ends. The creature leapt or fell, or perhaps was caught in that last desperate stride. Historians still debate what caused such fossilized flight moments to be preserved so perfectly. Was it a sudden flood that buried the tracks in silt? A volcanic ashfall that captured the scene in an instant? Whatever the cause, the tracks remain a frozen heartbeat from an age beyond memory. An odd fact surfaces on some remote beaches today. You can still find the sprinting tracks of shorebirds preserved briefly in drying sand, only to be erased by the next tide. These ancient prints are like that, but caught forever in stone, the tide never coming to wash them away. You crouch beside the final print, fingers tracing the deep groove left by a claw. The hollow feels sacred, a place where time itself paused to record a moment of fear, of flight, of life on the edge. And you wonder, what was it running from or toward? The mystery lingers unanswered as the mist curls around your legs and the night deepens. You stand in the hollow, the mist thick now, wrapping the world in soft white. The final prints lie at your feet, and beyond them, the unknown. The forest is quiet, as if holding its breath, as if the shadows themselves remember the light steps that once passed this way. You turn slowly, taking in the scene, the twisted trees, the dark stones, the glint of water pooled in ancient depressions. And in that stillness, the whispers of the tiptoed past seem almost close enough to hear. The tiptoe walkers are gone, their bones scattered or buried, their stories fragmented into trackways and fossils and strange, elegant ankle joints. But their legacy lingers in the birds that dart through the trees and the light-footed predators that still stalk the night in the balance and poise that nature never forgot. Historians still debate how much of what you've seen tonight was adaptation, how much was accident, and how much was just the poetry of survival written in each cautious step. Were they born to walk this way, or did the dangers of their world teach them? The truth may be somewhere between, blurred like the mist that hides the hollow now. An odd fact drifts gently into your thoughts as you linger. The phrase "to tiptoe around," something survives in our language today, a quiet echo of those ancient creatures. We still speak of caution and care as if walking lightly is the wisest way to face danger. And perhaps it is. The night deepens. The breeze stirs the mist, and the forest hums with unseen life. You turn to leave your own footsteps. Slow, deliberate, as if honoring the quiet grace of those who walked here before. The final image fades, the faint prints in the hollow, the curve of a tail vanished into the dark, the soft echo of steps that time could not erase. And so we come to the end of our journey tonight. Let's slow down just for a moment more. Picture the hollow, mist filling it until even the last print disappears. The trees sway gently overhead, their branches sighing in the breeze, and the world softens, the sharp edges of rock and claw and fear blurring into shadow. You can almost feel the ancient rhythm of those light steps, the careful dance of survival that shaped the ages. The tiptoe walkers are gone, but their story is written in every silent hunter, every cautious step, every creature that learned to move with care. And as you rest tonight, perhaps you'll hear it too, the softest whisper of the past echoing in the dark, reminding you that even in a world of giants, the lightest steps can leave the deepest marks.